Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another Taboo romance rec. So first, a little explanation. Number one, this is one that I put off making for quite a while because I do find this taboo to be not really that taboo, but I labeled it that way not only for, marketing purposes, but also because it's something that to me at one point was pretty taboo. When I look all the way back to my beginnings of romance, I remember the first time that I read butt stuff happening in a book and I was so scandalized, very turned on, but very scandalized about it. And since then, it's something that I've always enjoyed when it shows up. I think it should be more commonplace. I think it's totally fine for it to show up in more books that we see. And I find that it's not really something that fits into taboo really anymore. And I'm very, very happy to say that quite a few of the books I'm going to recommend today don't necessarily fall into the dark romance category, but it is somewhere where I see anal show up much more freely, which is outside of if it's outside of a menage or a gay romance, right? There is only one of the books that I'm putting in here that is a menage because it's an MFM. Because, obviously it's showing up in that. So that's kind of my explanation for why I haven't done a specific video for anal sex, because number one, I don't actually personally feel like it's taboo. But when I make these type of videos, I'm making them for, the average viewer, the average romance reader. And I think for a lot of people, it might still be, and they might not enjoy reading it or don't know that they read it, or it's hard to find. But I'm very happy that I've seen it in quite a few. And a couple of the ones that I'm going to start out with actually fit into even a subcategory beneath this, and it's something that I call the emotional anal. And it's when anal sex is used as kind of this extra level of trust in the relationship, which, I mean, when you think about it, it kind of is, because you're trusting the person to do it the right way and to take their time and prepare you correctly and not just jump into it, because that can go very badly for everyone involved if that were to happen. There's something about it in certain books where it's such an emotional moment for both people that it just makes the romance so much deeper. So I'm actually going to start off with a few books that have that, and then we'll go through some more. So anyway, that was enough of an intro for this, but yes, we're going to talk about butt stuff, specifically anal sex, because there are a whole other category where just butt play happens, where we're using plugs or a finger or whatever, but these ones should include fully penetrative butt stuff. I also do want to give a shout out to Ashton, who recommended this one. Ashton, I remembered when this one was put in. It's been quite a while. Excuse me. It also was recommended by a few other people who chose to remain anonymous, but this is a shout out for Ashton, who requested this. It's just one that I was kind of waiting on doing because, again, I wasn't sure that I needed a specific category for it, but I decided we do, because I like to have rec videos for everything. Therefore, we have a rec video for anal sex. So let's start off with one that I just read, and this one is actually a fan fiction. And like I said, this one has it as one of the emotional parts of the story, and this is called A Lovely Bribery, and it is by the author D.C. Fitzpatrick. I'll have a link down below to the AO3 page where you can read this for free. And this is actually a Snape and Hermione pairing. And it's written in the vein of The Proposal, the Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds film. So Hermione is actually Snape's boss at the Ministry. After the war, even though he was a spy for the good side, he's kind of a pariah in some aspects. And so the only job he's able to get is as being a potion brewer under Hermione. And she is a really hard-ass boss. And the Ministry puts out a new marriage law where everyone between the ages of 20 and 40 have to be paired up. And Hermione is in her 20s, so she fits into this. And to escape it, she coerces Snape into being her fake fiance, and to convince the ministry, they will have to go through these interviews to prove that they really know each other and they're not trying to defraud the ministry. And this also leads to them going on a small vacation together to stay with Hermione's family. So during this 2-week vacation, they're sharing a bedroom, they're pretending to be in love, they're trying to share information with each other so they can pass these quizzes, and they slowly fall in love with each other. And there's a point, once their sexual relationship has began, where Hermione asks Severus to fully take her in every way possible, and then we get to the anal section of the story. And it was a very beautiful moment, and this one is a very spicy fanfic. The first 50% of this are a very slow burn build up, and then I've been saying, like, once the switch is flipped, it just was like, whoa, all the time. So very, very spicy, very good. Then we have another recent read, Angst by Sophie Lark, and this one has all types of taboo and spicy and kinky things going on in it, but it does have a scene where there's a very emotional sex scene happening between Blake and Ramses, where they're dealing with some angst from Blake's past and past relationships that have hurt her, and she wants to give Ramsey like all of her. And so they have this very hot scene where she basically puts herself on him in her back entrance on him, and it is a very like raw scene between the two of them, and it's just one of the moments in the book when they're like, whoa, there's more going on between us than we expected there to be. And it's very powerful scene. I recommend Minx just because she's amazing. Okay, next we have one that is actually the crowning book for me that introduced emotional anal to me, okay? Because as I said, I've read plenty of anal sex before. I enjoy it when it shows up. It's usually extra hot, extra raw, and everything. But there's a scene in this book that I was crying my eyes out when they consummate the back entrance, as it were. I don't know. I end up making jokes about this. This book is anything but funny. And it is, I grabbed grip, dang it. We'll pretend this is Still. We'll put it down. We'll put it down. I grabbed the wrong book. Still is the second book, or the third book, I guess, because the first one is considered, the novella is the first book in the Grip trilogy. And Grip and Bristol have been through the emotional ringer in this series. They have lost a child. They are having trouble getting back to who they were before. In fact, they never will be who they were before. And something that Bristol has never been willing to do with Grip before is anal sex. And they have this scene where she is just completely wrecked, and she wants Grip to, I mean, dominate is the wrong word, but it is in the sense that she's like, I need my husband to like take me back. I need him to take me back. And that leads to this extremely emotional sex scene on the stairs where she gives him everything. And like, they're crying, I'm crying, sobbing, snot everywhere, that level of crying. And as I said, this is the scene that christened me for emotional anal because it was just so powerful. Like, Kennedy Ryan writes a powerful sex scene no matter what. Okay, she doesn't waste those scenes. They're never flippant. But this is one that it has lived rent-free in my head for over 2 years now. It will never go away. It is so beautiful. And it's just these two people desperately clinging to each other. And it's so beautiful. Like, I can't. It's perfect. It's so beautiful. So, highly recommend. Then we have a bit of a sillier one following after that. And it's one that, like, a lot of authors are kind of chasing the menage or the reverse harem train right now. And I don't necessarily think that they should be. But this book was fun. and it has DP in it, and it has an MFM relationship, and it's sweet. Like, that's what I would say for it. So this is Double Pucked by Lauren Blakely, and our heroine finds her boyfriend cheating on her in the beginning, and so she steals his hockey tickets where he was going to get to meet his two idols, who are the, like, heads of two separate hockey teams, but they're actually best friends, which is kind of funny at the same time. And so this woman, her and her friend, take these tickets to get this VIP experience, and she ends up having like a one-night stand with both of them. And then she needs to move out of her apartment because she was living with her boyfriend, and one of the guys offers to have her stay with him until her new place is ready. And in fact, the other friend is going to stay there too, and they're going to explore their sexy connection together. As I said, this one is MFM, so the anal that happens is MF in this one. You know, generally if you're reading an MMF menage, there is going to be anal, but it's usually of the MM variety in that one. But yeah, this one was a fun book, so I just wanted to include it. It was a recent release, and it doesn't have the same emotional depth as Still, but then again, we can't blame every book for not being Still, because there's only one. So yeah. Then I also want to recommend Feral Sins by Suzanne Wright. This is a book I used to recommend all the time. It's been a little while since I have, but actually most of the books in this series do have anal. So this is a paranormal fated mates romance, and this first book in the series is actually a like fake mate, like they pretend to be mates, but they actually are mates, and their wolves know that they're mates, but the humans are a little slow on the uptake. But one of the things in this series is that a lot of the females are pretty like dominant as well, and so there's a lot of very like rough sex scenes, consensual sex scenes, but a lot of very like the men need to like put their women into submission to win the approval of the wolf. Like, your man has to be strong enough to be able to make you submit, or else your wolf like won't respect him. And one of the ways that the male wolves do that is with anal sex. That is the full version of dominance in this series. So most of the books in this series have a scene of anal happening in it, and they're very hot because the wolves are really like fighting. And so there's definitely like an edge of primal play in this, in the realistic sense, since they're wolves as well. That's pretty hot. So definitely recommend. This series I think is still on KU Read and Listen with Audible. So if you download the KU, you should automatically get the audio version, which is how I listened to all these, and I enjoyed them very much. Next, we have The Doctor by Nikki Sloan. Nikki Sloan is another author that includes anal quite a bit. Like, a lot of her books in her series do have it at some level. So this one is a forbidden romance. It's an ex's dad romance. Super hot, super sexy. And we have our heroine who has just broken up with her boyfriend. And her and the dad end up having a fling. And the father is a doctor. So that's where we get it. And this is one that I haven't read this in so long, but this series is still ongoing. The next one coming out is The Good Girl. And I believe that that is supposed to be the ex-boyfriend who was a like bad boy. I believe it's supposed to be his romance. I think. Don't quote me. But I think he's getting a bit of a redemption in this new one, so we'll see. Because he is a cheater. He's a naughty boy in that one in this aspect. But he is also basically a teenager. I'm not saying that makes him perfect. And I definitely am happy that the heroine dumps him at that time. But I'm interested to see him in the future if he's grown up a little bit. Because if he has, I'm willing to give him a second chance. I am. But anyway, we're talking about this one. This one has many dirty, like, hidden sexy scenes. There's one particular role play scene in here where, because she had went to prom with the boyfriend before, right? And there's a really hot scene where she puts on her prom dress and then gets defiled by Dr. Lowe. And it's really hot because, like, he had thought she was pretty back then when his son was dating her, but he was like very forbidden fruit and all this stuff. So now he gets to have some fun with her. So highly recommend the Nashville Neighborhood series. Anyway, it's all very hot stuff. All right, then we have Twisted Pride by Cora Riley. This is another scene where the anal scene has a lot to do with like dominance going on in it. And this is a captor-captive romance. This is there's just so much about this. This was like peak Cora Riley right here. Twisted Emotions and Twisted Pride are peak Cora Riley here. And so Serafina has been taken captive by Ramo to punish her family. She's stolen on her wedding day, and Ramo isn't planning to do anything to her, but there is an undeniable attraction between these two, and as it grows and as it festers, she can't help but slowly like give in to him. And there is another scene as well where he kind of pushes her to give him everything, and as a sign of dominance, he does take the back door as well. There's also a really hot scene in here. Okay, I know it's gonna sound to some people, but he takes her virginity, and she didn't like come from him fucking her, so he then orally gets her off after he has fucked her. So when he gets up, he has her virgin's blood like all over his face. Because that's Ramo Falcone for you. Oh, Ramo, I need to reread that book. I need to reread it for sure. All right, then we have, as I would call her, the queen of anal sex, because I don't think I've read a book of hers that doesn't have it, unless it's one of her novellas. And of course we have Priest by Sierra Simone, and there is a very, 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 very infamous anal sex scene that involves holy oil in this book. This is a forbidden priest romance that is mostly about the hero dealing with the feelings he has. This is also a book that is told primarily from the hero's point of view as well, which is kind of cool. There aren't too many books that do that, but Father Bell has a lot that he needs to come to terms with in this story for sure. But yeah, both this one and Sinner have pretty powerful anal sex scenes in them. And I mean, so does Saint, but that one's an MM romance, so we ain't surprised about that. All right. Then we have one that I haven't read this book in so long, but it has some scenes that still live like rent-free for me. And this one is Our Way by T.L. Swan. And so this book fits into a very, very, very specific niche. I've only read 2 books that have done this. Only 2 books that have done this. That is a straight for you romance, which we don't have to quite label it that way because the hero himself doesn't label himself, so I don't want to put him in that box. But I call it this way because our hero has lived as a gay man all of his sexually, viable life so far. And this is actually a friends to lovers romance. And they meet each other 10 years ago, these two. There's Nathan and, what's her name? I just forgot what her name is. Eliza. Nathan and Eliza. And they've been best friends. And something starts to change. And Nathan starts to be attracted to his best friend. Now, she's always been attracted to him. And even before, she found out that he was gay, she was really hot for him. And then he's her gay best friend. They're besties. They have sleepovers all the time. They share the same bed. They go on vacations together. They've just been parts of each other's lives forever. And he starts to have these sexual feelings for her, and he doesn't know how to handle it. He doesn't know if this is just a phase or if this is really just, he doesn't understand what's happening to him. He's never been attracted to a woman before, and he doesn't want to experiment with his best friend and possibly lose this relationship. So it definitely leads to some messy scenarios while he's trying to figure out his sexuality. But once they are together, there's this very powerful scene where she asks him to fuck her ass. And he's like, you don't have to give me that. I love fucking you however I can. But she wants to kind of give him this experience that he, has had before with men. She wants to be able to give it to him too. And so it's this very emotionally complex scenario, and it's one that there's just so many situations where it could go badly, But yeah, I mean, I won't say that their relationship is smooth, even though they are best friends. Like, there's still a lot of drama between them, but this is a fascinating book. And like I said, I've only read a couple that had someone who had, you know, only been with men before, then be with a woman. And this was a very powerful one for me. I loved it. And then last but not least, I have a very fun book overall, and this one actually involves anal as a prize, which I'm not, you know, suggesting in real life, but it is really hot. So we have Bright Like Wildfire by Juliet Cross. This is a book of hers that often gets forgotten, but it was one of her first contemporaries that she wrote. She has a couple out, and she will be writing more. But Bright Like Wildfire is the first in the Beauville series. There is supposed to be more in this series eventually, but this is about Bennett and Betty, and they have been kind of like rivals in this small town for many years. They're both teachers, and they both get roles in the town production of A Midsummer's Night's Dream, and now they are like love interests in this play. And so all their sexual tension that's been building for all these years is now like in the spotlight, literally. And anyway, they end up, you know, having a sexual relationship, and there's a time where they make a bet, and if Bennett wins, he gets anal sex, and he wins. So we see it, how it plays out. There's also toys involved for it. It's very hot. So highly recommend this story. It's just so fun. It's so fun. And yeah, like I said, it's one of Juliet's that gets forgotten too often. So love this one. So there you go. Those are 10 recommendations that have anal sex going around in them. So let me know some of your favorites. This is by no means an exhaustive list. I've read plenty of books that have these, but these are some of my favorites, some recent reads, some older ones. So highly recommend these to you. So thanks so much for watching, friends. Make sure you give this a big thumbs up. Share this with someone you think might enjoy it. And make sure you're subscribed for more Taboo recommendations and all the goodies from me. So have a wonderful day.